Talking all about structured water today. I talk a lot about the structured water that builds within our body. Today we're going to talk about the difference between that and drinking what people are calling structured water. So let's get started. Now, structured water or ordered water, biological water, easy water, like Gerald Pollack and his team out of the University of Washington first identified back in 2003. This is something that is building against hydrophilic surfaces. It's an interaction between the water and the environment and that hydrophilic surface and the energy that's added into the environment. So what we see is that this talks about hydrophilic surfaces in the body or in living systems like our cell membranes, our mitochondria, our fascia, our vessels. These are all hydrophilic or water-loving in nature. And what happens is one sheet of structured water forms against this hydrophilic surface, and it looks like a bunch of hexagons, like a honeycomb, and this lattice formation of hexagons forms against that hydrophilic surface as one sheet of this structured water forms. It acts as a template for more sheets to form. As the structured water forms within our body, it pushes out a positive hydrogen. Those hydrogens in the structured water are more tightly bound, and they push out a positively charged hydrogen, making what researchers are calling a proton-rich zone or a proton wire. And we see that the separation of charge, again, Pollack and his team out of the University of Washington have done amazing research where they put an electrode in that negatively charged structured water and the positively charged proton wire that is formed right outside that structured water zone, and the separation of charge, just like the separation of charge in 9-volt batteries, enables action. What his experiment found was that that separation of charge was enough to power a light bulb, certainly enough to power biological action. Now, this structured water is a result of that dance between our hydrophilic surfaces, those water-loving surfaces, the adhesion and building of that structured water zone in relationship to the infrared energy, the energy in our environment. This is something that's happening inside our body, and that researchers have shown that there's a correlation between the building of that structured water and health. The greater that structured water is, the bigger that zone is that's building against our hydrophilic surfaces, the better health we have. We've seen this in cancerous models, in disease models. It's absolutely amazing to see this underneath a microscope. But is this the same thing as drinking what people are calling structured water? It's not. That structured water is forming on those hydrophilic surfaces with the introduction of infrared energy or energy. It's being built and it's gel-like, it's viscous. This is different than what people are calling structured water. Now, researchers like Gilbert Ling, Albert St. Georgi, Emilio de Guis, they all talked about these two states of water, a more coherent state of water and a less coherent state of water, a more excited state of water and a ground state of water. Now, these states of water are not that gel-like viscous form that we see building against our cell surfaces. It is, I heard one researcher call it, the hydrogens are holding hands. Instead of creating a lattice sheet formation, they are creating almost a circle with those hydrogens connecting with each other. And this allows for that, what researchers are calling coherent domain. That coherent domain of water is able to let EMF energy, electromagnetic frequency, into that coherent domain, but it keeps out all the other particles. So if I was trying to get a particle of iodine or lithium or something of the sort inside those coherent domains, in that drinking water, it wouldn't be able to permeate it. It's only able to accept EMF information. And this is what is being researched and talked about when people talk about drinking structured water. It's drinking water that is more energized, that is more coherent, that has more of these coherent domains throughout that water. Now we see from the research that drinking this more energized, this more structured, this more coherent water is good for our immune system. It helps with our gut microbiome, aging, mitochondrial function. We've seen this in research with agriculture and plant growth, with livestock and animal research, as well as human research. So we're talking about two different things, and the reason we are talking about two different things is because water is very dynamic. There's this idea that if we drink 8 ounces of this energized water, it immediately goes to those surfaces and creates structured water within the body. What we need to understand is that while the research points to the benefits of drinking this more energized, more coherent water, it's not a 1-to-1 ratio, right? Meaning that when we drink that energized water, it's not immediately going to that structured water zone. There are steps required in both the structured water in our body and the water we're drinking require that we put energy into the system. So we build structured water in our body in accordance with light, infrared energy. Saunas also do the same thing. Movement, anything that really impacts mitochondrial health and that production of ATP and deuterium depleted water and infrared energy that we see in the mitochondrial electron transport chain. This is all talking about structuring water in our body. Thoughts, frequency of thoughts also impact that structured water and capacity to build structured water in the body. Drinking this more energized, coherent water has also shown benefits, but it's not a 1-to-1 relationship. We need to remember that water is constantly being structured and destructured. It's constantly absorbing and reacting to the frequency information in our environment. Sound, light, vibratory oscillation of magnetic fields. All of these things are impacting that water component, and it is dynamic, right? It's not in a state of where we are drinking water and it's in one state and it stays in that one state. It is always dancing to the tune of frequency information in our environment. So that's really the difference between those two things. And a lot of people are using them interchangeably. And I think it's important that we point out how they are differing, yet they are both beneficial to the system. So thank you so much for joining me. Leave your questions down below.